In the tense atmosphere of a family torn by secrets and betrayals, Ashley stood motionless in the dim light of the room. She looked at Derek, the man she had loved and cared for during the long days. He lay in bed, fighting his own invisible pain. But now, the silence between them was not just due to external challenges, but also to the unspoken secrets Derek had kept, a truth Ashley had never expected. For months, Derek had lived in a fantasy world. He had created a world where everything was perfect, and the truth about his full recovery was hidden. His inability to stand up and walk had made Ashley feel like she was the only one carrying the burden of their lives. She had sacrificed countless things, devoted herself to caring for him, always believing that he would get better. And now, when she suddenly discovered the truth, that he had been able to stand for a long time, everything came crashing down. Derek wasn't as paralyzed as she thought. He could walk, stand up, and do the things she'd imagined he couldn't do. He'd kept this a secret for so long, just to give her a surprise. A surprise he'd thought would bring joy, wonder. But it had come as a powerful blow to Ashley's heart. The feeling of betrayal surged like waves, uncontrollable. The anger was not just at Derek's lies, but also at the complicity of the others, Naomi, Jacob, and Shanice, who had known all along but hadn't told her. The feeling of being left out of these secrets made her feel like she was no longer a part of their lives. The conversations in her head were a relentless storm. Why did Derek choose to hide it? Did he want to create a wonderful moment for them, so that when she found out, joy would fill their hearts? But why didn't he trust her enough to share the truth sooner? Or perhaps he was afraid that if she knew she had recovered, Ashley would no longer need him, would leave him? This made her feel even more abandoned in her own life. Ashley couldn't shake the feeling of being lied to, but the more she thought about it, the more she couldn't help but ask herself, was this pain just from Derek lying to her, or from the silence of the people around her? Naomi, Jacob, and Shanice, the three people she trusted the most, had known for a long time but didn't tell her. Did they think she wasn't strong enough to face the truth? Or were they complicit because they didn't want to hurt Derek? But keeping the truth from her made Ashley feel like she wasn't part of the group, like she was just an outsider to the family's important decisions. Ashley's anger was boiling, and she couldn't control the chaotic thoughts in her head. She had thought everything was settled, that they would get through the difficult times together, but now the truth was tearing everything apart. This betrayal wasn't just from Derek, but from the people she once considered family. She had every right to be angry, but she also had to face the reality that secrets not only hurt people but also damage relationships beyond repair. When Ashley turned away, her face showed her pain, but inside she had a painful decision. Could she continue to live in a relationship in which the truth was always kept? Or will she have to find a way out of the darkness Derek has dragged her into, to free herself from the lies and betrayals she cannot forgive? Derek stood there, looking at her, his eyes full of remorse, but also a little bewildered. He had hoped that the surprise would ease things, but the truth was a sharp knife stabbing into her heart, hurting the relationship he had worked so hard to build. Was this concealment the only way he knew how to protect his love? Or was he simply afraid of losing her if she found out the truth? The question Ashley had to answer for herself was not whether she could forgive Derek, but whether she could continue to live in a world full of lies and betrayals. And was their love strong enough to overcome these deep wounds? Or would it eventually be the end of everything they had built? If Derek had confessed the truth earlier, perhaps things wouldn't have gotten this far. If he had been honest with Ashley from the start, sharing that he was recovering but keeping it a secret to keep it a surprise, would Ashley have taken it more easily? The answer isn't easy, because this situation isn't just a confession, it's a deep, long-term lie, and it's not just about Derek's body. It's about trust, it's about respect, and whether the relationship is strong enough to survive the rifts that the lies cause. If Derek had confessed earlier, Ashley might not have felt so excluded, like an outsider in her own life. She might have understood that Derek didn't mistrust her, but simply wanted to do something special for her. But the silence and secrecy he kept for so long had created a deep wound in Ashley's heart, a wound that was not only about dishonesty, but also about the hurt from those around him. But what was the price of honesty at that time? If Derek had told the truth as soon as he could, he would have had to face an extreme anger from Ashley. The feeling of betrayal would have been inevitable, and perhaps their relationship would have fallen into a state of instability. The truth could have caused everything to collapse immediately, because Ashley would have felt used, treated as an unimportant person, left out of important family decisions. However, that might have been easier than her finding out the truth after a long time of being deceived. At least then, she would have felt respected enough to know in advance, and their relationship might not have been affected as severely as it is now. However, the truth can also lead to unpredictable reactions. Derek's honesty will put him in a situation where he has to face consequences that he cannot foresee. This revelation can make Ashley feel that she has lost trust in him, and their relationship may not be able to recover, either from Derek or Ashley. Jacob, who has warned Derek many times, may have seen the signs that Derek has ignored. Jacob is close to Derek. He understands his personality and knows that the truth cannot be hidden for long without causing a big shock. Jacob has tried to persuade Derek to confess, but it seems that Derek has taken those warnings as empty words. Meanwhile, Ashley, all this time, has done everything she can to save this relationship, to help Derek through the painful months. She has trusted him, has given him all her attention and care without a doubt, but she didn't get the openness or honesty she deserved from Derek. Ashley may have noticed the signs of secrecy before, and her actions may have been an attempt to make amends, even though she didn't know she was correcting a mistake she didn't make. She had tried everything to make the relationship better, but now that the truth had come out, she felt like those efforts were not only unappreciated, but also ignored. Jacob may have seen strange signs when Derek tried to hide the truth. He may have noticed a change in Derek's behavior, that he seemed to be avoiding confronting Ashley directly, that there were moments when Derek didn't want anyone to know about his progress. Jacob had warned Derek about this, but Derek didn't listen. Instead, he continued to live in secrecy, afraid that if he spoke out, Ashley would no longer need him. But this secrecy killed the trust between them, leaving Ashley feeling excluded from her own relationship. So Ashley's anger was not just because Derek lied, but also because of the complicity of others. Jacob, Naomi, Shanice, they all knew the truth, and they said nothing. They chose to remain silent, letting Derek make his own decision, but it was a decision that made Ashley feel like an outsider, like someone not important enough to know the truth. This feeling of isolation was unforgivable, and the price Derek paid was the loss of Ashley's respect and trust, something he may never regain. If Derek had listened to Jacob and confessed sooner, Ashley might not have had to go through this pain. But now they stand on the brink of collapse, and no one can say whether this relationship can recover or only indelible wounds remain. Ashley stood in the middle of the room, her eyes clouded with a thick fog. The feeling of betrayal swirled in her chest, making it hard to breathe, unable to think clearly. Everything she had built with Derek seemed to vanish in an instant, as she realized that all this time, she had not been respected as she thought. The truth, though deliberately hidden, came rushing back with an unstoppable force, sweeping away all the trust she had ever placed in Derek. The hurt Ashley was feeling was not simply because Derek had hidden the truth from her about his full recovery. It was the pain of realizing that the people closest to her, Naomi, Jacob, and Shanice, had known all along and had chosen to remain silent. They had prioritized protecting Derek, protecting his family, over standing by Ashley, who was struggling in the dark with all her worries, all her fears. They ignored her, and that was the biggest shock to Ashley. Derek probably never thought that hiding it would have such serious consequences. He thought he was doing the right thing, creating a moment of surprise, a surprise that Ashley would love. But in Ashley's heart, that was not what she needed. She didn't need a surprise. She just needed honesty, respect from the man she cared for so much. She had spent so many months waiting for his recovery, sacrificed so much, only to receive lies and complicity from the people she trusted the most. If Derek had confessed the truth earlier, would Ashley have reacted differently? She might have been hurt, but at least she wouldn't have felt abandoned in her own life. The price of honesty at that time was quite high, but at least it would have kept the trust in this relationship. The price of honesty wasn't that Ashley could forgive him right away, but that Derek respected her enough to share the truth from the beginning, instead of letting it be a shock to her life. Ashley couldn't help but wonder, if Derek had known that she wouldn't leave despite his quick recovery, would he have kept the truth hidden for so long? Perhaps Derek's biggest fear wasn't Ashley's reaction to his recovery, but the fear that once she knew the truth, Ashley wouldn't need him anymore. This only made his lies deeper, because it wasn't just a simple concealment, but an attempt to protect himself, a fear of loss. But Derek couldn't have foreseen that this concealment would make everything worse. And now, when everything was revealed, Ashley felt like she couldn't take it anymore. She wasn't just angry that Derek had lied to her. She was also angry that she felt left out. She was the only one in the family who didn't know the truth. She had been there, day and night, caring for Derek, hoping for a future where they could overcome difficulties together. But now, she realized that everything she did, every sacrifice she made, was just part of a game that Derek and the people around her had planned all along. She was left behind in her own story. But in Ashley's mind, a bigger question arose. Could anything be salvaged from this relationship? Could she forgive Derek? Or was the betrayal too great to mend? And what was the price of forgiveness? Would she have to continue living in a relationship filled with lies and complicity, or would she have to walk away to regain the respect and trust she deserved? Jacob had tried to warn Derek before, but his silence and complicity only made Ashley feel more hurt. Those warnings fell on deaf ears, and now Jacob himself had to witness the breakdown he had long predicted. He knew that Derek could not keep secrets forever, and it was this concealment that had put Ashley in such a difficult position. Jacob's warnings were not in vain, but they could not be saved when everything was too late. The price Derek paid for honesty was not only the loss of Ashley's trust, but also the loss of himself. That price could not be measured in simple words or actions, but a wound that could not be healed. Could anything be saved? The answer may be no, because this betrayal had gone too far. This relationship would never be the same again, and Ashley knew she had to decide what to keep in this relationship and what to let go. When Derek looked into Ashley's eyes again, he knew that this time he had lost her, and the price he had paid for his lies was one he would never be able to pay.